Sometime in the last few days, a crow in your neighborhood looked at you. Not a glance, a look. The kind that tracks, the kind that holds, the kind that, if you caught it, made you feel for a half second like something was being decided about you. You were right. Something was. What almost nobody knows is what happened next. After that crow assessed you and filed whatever it registered, it did something no bird was supposed to be able to do. It told other crows about you, not as a generic alarm. In a specific, directed, individually targeted communication that researchers are only beginning to fully understand. There is a conversation happening in your neighborhood that you are not part of. You are, however, the subject of it. Tonight, we're going to find out exactly what has been said. If this is your first time here, this channel exists to show you what crow intelligence actually looks like in the research, in the documented behavior, in the implications most people never hear about. Subscribe now. Every video goes deeper than the last. Stay until the end, because the last thing we cover is the part researchers themselves found hardest to accept, and it is the part most directly about you. Most people think about animal communication in one direction: a sound, a meaning, a response. Simple, functional, and entirely insufficient to describe what crows actually do. What researchers have found does not fit inside that framework at all. Crow communication is not a broadcast system. The evidence shows that crows engage in something far more like targeted, referential, individually specific communication. They do not just make sounds. They make sounds about things, about places, about events, and in documented cases, that forced a serious re-examination of what animal language is capable of about specific individual humans. Most people assume that when crows call near humans, they are reacting. Alarm responses, territorial warnings. What the research tells us is that a significant portion of what crows communicate about humans is not reactive at all. It is informational, the transfer of specific knowledge about a specific individual from one crow to another that may never have encountered that individual directly. Crows do not just react to you, they report on you. They build, maintain, and distribute a profile of you through a communication system that operates across their entire social network. You have a file in that system. Tonight we are going to read it. The first thing researchers had to establish is that crow communication is not a fixed code. For decades, the working model was that bird calls are hardwired. Each call maps to a meaning. Alarm means predator. Contact means here I am. Territorial means stay away. Consistent, stable, inherited. Birds are not inventing language. They are running a program. Crows are not running a program. Markus Backel, researcher at the University of Vienna, found that individual crows produce calls acoustically distinct enough to function as signatures. Individual level signals. Crows identify specific other crows by voice alone. In conditions where visual identification is impossible, they know who is calling before they can see who is there. Crow communication has two things most animal systems do not: addressability, directing a message toward a specific receiver, and source identification, knowing not just what was said, but who said it. These two features allow crow communication to function as a social information network. When a crow calls about you, other crows receive information from a known individual whose reliability they have prior experience with. The message has a sender, recipients, and a subject. Christine Schwab, behavioral researcher at the University of Vienna, documented that crows show differentiated responses to the same acoustic signals depending on who produced them. A call from a high-status member produces a stronger response than the same call from a younger bird. They process the signal in the context of everything they know about the bird who produced it. That is not a simple alarm system. That is something that begins to look like a social language with grammar, context, and reputation built in. And you are one of the subjects that language describes. The second revelation makes the first land with its full weight. Crows communicate about you in your absence. After you have gone inside, after days or weeks have passed, the profile is not a live feed. It is a stored record, retrieved, referenced, and transmitted independently of whether you are currently present. Claudia Washer, researcher at Anglia Ruskin University, found that crows engage in socially mediated information transfer, knowledge about third parties passing through a network of relationships, traveling far beyond its original source. A crow at one end of your neighborhood can hold accurate information about you that originated with a crow at the other end, through intermediate birds you have never met. This is the mechanism behind something many people have noticed without being able to explain. The flock that scatters before you have done anything. The single bird that holds its ground as though it already knows you. The sense that your reputation preceded you, though you had no idea one was being built. It was. Washer's research documented that the information transferred is not limited to threat assessments. Crows communicate behavioral patterns, predictability, whether a specific individual can be approached, whether they have offered food, whether they have done something threatening, and how long ago. The profile is not a single data point. It is a running record with history, context, and updates. Irene Pepperberg, researcher at Harvard University, has noted that the cognitive infrastructure required for this kind of networked information sharing is far more demanding than anything the traditional model of bird communication was designed to accommodate. The bird is representing specific individuals and transmitting those representations in a form other birds can receive, store, and act on. That begins to look less like animal signaling and more like something else entirely. Researchers did not expect to find this. What nobody was prepared for was evidence that crow communication about humans includes something that functions like reputation weighting, not just what a specific human did, but how their behavior has changed over time and what that pattern means for how the crow should respond going forward. Melissa Wyndham, researcher at the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, found that crows modify their communicated assessments of known humans in response to behavioral changes over time. A human who had registered as neutral and then did something threatening did not simply get reclassified as dangerous. The behavioral history was part of what got transmitted, not just the current classification. The crows are not maintaining a simple updated file. They are maintaining something closer to a narrative, a record of not just who you are now, but who you have been, and what that pattern suggests about who you are likely to be. What travels through the network when crows talk about you is not a snapshot. It is something with time built into it. A story, and the receiving bird updates its behavior based on a story received secondhand from a bird it trusts. Washer noted that temporally structured social information transfer has been documented in only a small number of non-human species, each correlating with high social complexity. Societies where individual relationships matter and history affects current behavior. Crows qualify. You have a story among crows. You did not write it. You performed it in every interaction since the first crow registered your existence, and it has been in circulation in a language you cannot hear the entire time. The fourth revelation most directly answers the question you have probably been carrying since the beginning of this video. What exactly are they saying about you? The honest answer is that we do not have a complete translation. What researchers do have is a detailed behavioral picture of what crows do after specific types of communication occur. From that picture, it is possible to reverse engineer something close to the content. Wyndham's acoustic studies identified at least 4 distinct call patterns crows produce in contexts involving known individual humans, each correlating with specific subsequent behaviors. Approach, avoidance, recruitment of additional birds, sustained observation from a maintained distance. When crows communicate about a known human, they select from a differentiated vocabulary based on the stored profile of that specific individual. If the crow's profile of you is positive, the communication correlates with relaxed awareness in nearby crows. Normal foraging continues. The birds register your presence and return to what they were doing. If the profile is negative, what gets communicated correlates with coordinated threat assessment, multiple birds orienting toward you simultaneously. Alarm calls with a specificity that other crows respond to differently than generic warnings. In documented cases, active mobbing behavior that spreads faster than direct observation alone could explain, as though the information about you traveled ahead of your movement. The crows in your neighborhood are not reacting to you as a category. They are responding to you as an individual, shaped by a conversation that has been running longer than you knew. The fifth revelation closes the distance between all of this research and the specific morning you walked outside and felt watched. Crows have dialects, not metaphorical dialects. Documented, acoustically measurable vocal variation. The crows in one part of a city produce calls acoustically distinct from crows 3 miles away. Those distinctions are learned, not inherited, the same way human children acquire the accent of the community around them. If the crows in your immediate neighborhood share a local vocal dialect, they share more than a sound. They share a communicative shorthand, a set of acoustic conventions that allow information to move through the local network with a speed and precision that would not be possible without shared linguistic infrastructure. Jennifer Mather, researcher at the University of Lethbridge, has noted that dialect-based communities in cognitively complex species function as high-trust information networks. Shared vocal conventions make communication more efficient. Within a dialect group, information travels faster and produces stronger behavioral responses. The conversation happening about you is not a loose, diffuse exchange. It is happening within a high-trust network built on shared conventions your local crow population has been refining for generations. The crows outside your window are not strangers exchanging rumors. They are members of a close community speaking a shared language about a subject they all have a version of a file on. That subject is you. We need to stop talking about crow communication for a moment. None of what we have covered is ultimately about what crows can do. It is about what it means to have lived inside a world where this is happening without knowing it. For as long as you have been near crows, you have been assuming your interactions with animals are one-directional, that when you walk away, the interaction ends. That assumption is not true. There is a network of minds in your neighborhood building a picture of you from the outside, not from your intentions or self-image, from your behavior, from the specific observable things you have done in the presence of crows, in moments you remember and moments you have long forgotten. That picture has been described in a language you cannot hear to birds who have never met you, and those birds adjusted their behavior based on a description received from someone they trust. Your reputation among crows was not built in a single dramatic encounter. It was built through the accumulation of ordinary moments that felt, at the time, like they did not count. The morning you walked past without looking up. The afternoon you moved too quickly near a nest. The day you stayed long enough that the crow watching back began to relax. All of it counted. All of it was filed. The crow that knows you best is not the one that has seen you most. It is the one paying the most careful attention. And that attention is not passive. It is a form of relationship. You have been in a relationship you did not know you were in. At the beginning of this video, I told you there was a conversation happening in your neighborhood that you were not part of. The last thing we cover is the part researchers found hardest to accept. Here it is. The hardest part was what all of it implied about crow theory of mind. Theory of mind is the ability to attribute mental states to others, to understand that another individual has beliefs and knowledge different from your own. The cognitive capacity that allows you to recognize that what you know is not automatically what someone else knows. For decades, theory of mind was considered a defining feature of human cognition and a handful of great apes. The idea that a bird might possess anything approaching it was not seriously entertained. Buckle's work combined with Schwab's research has contributed to growing evidence that crows behave in ways very difficult to explain without attributing to them something that functions like an awareness of what other individuals know. Crows have been documented withholding food caching behavior when observed by other crows, then returning to move their caches after the observer left. Because they appear to understand that the other crow now knew where the cache was and that this knowledge was a problem. That is not a reflex. That is a representation of another mind's knowledge state. A crow capable of that is capable of understanding that you do not know this is happening, that the conversation about you is invisible to you, that the profile being maintained exists in a space you have no awareness of. You have been the subject of a conversation conducted by minds more capable than most people have ever given them credit for, about a history that neither you nor the crows had any reason to think you were both keeping. You were both keeping it. You just did not know they were keeping theirs. Now you do. Before you go, I want to ask you one thing. Think about the crows in your neighborhood, not as background, as individuals who have been watching you, filing what they saw, and passing it along in a language you are only now beginning to understand existed. Is there a crow you have seen more than once in the same place? One that holds its ground a little longer, or watches you with a quality of attention that feels different from ordinary animal wariness? That crow has a file on you, and somewhere in the network around it, other crows have a version of that file too. What do you think it says? Leave it in the comments. Tell me about the crow that made you feel, even for a moment, like the dynamic between you was not quite what you had assumed. I read every single one. I will see you in the next one.